everybody for being here. So as mentioned, I am Ivan. I work for Synology. So I want to preface this presentation by saying that, unfortunately, Synology is not a space-focused company. Sorry about that. We're actually in the business of managing data and protecting all your assets. So you're probably going to ask then, if you're not into the space industry, why are you here today with us? Well, because if you think about it, isn't data actually at the core of every business, and especially in the space industry? If you think about it, every space mission, every operation that you're going to undertake is going to be about generating, transferring, storing, processing data. You're going to leverage your technical equipment, your sensors, your flight data. You're going to transfer it, ideally securely, from space to ground control, for instance, or even to other locations. And once you have the data, you actually need to store it somewhere and being able to process it. So be able to use that data to generate insights, to take actions. And this is actually where we come in. So we are focused on helping you store and processing your data safely, as much as you want, with as many user accounts as you want. So of course, that includes a lot of use cases that are actually going to relate to space, from the conception to the execution and even to after the launch, for instance, of a space mission. So when we talk about conception, we can think of things like 3D modeling, engineering. When you have to actually create a spacecraft or any piece of equipment, a satellite, you're going to need to have 3D models, you're going to run simulations, you're going to run flight plans, and all of these are going to be stored somewhere. So we can actually help you do this in this kind of challenge. Of course, during the execution of a space mission, you have mission-critical software, you have telemetry data, you have space imaging, for instance. All these activities are going to generate huge amount of data that you're going to have to be able to take and then, of course, take them down, usually to ground control, to process them. So we're talking about database. You're going to take all your data, store it somewhere, and then you're going to need to access it to be able to leverage that data. And once you're done, of course, well, data just doesn't magically disappear. Most of the time, for legal reasons or compliance reasons, you're going to want to keep that data for 5, 10, 20 years. So, well, obviously, you're going to have to put it somewhere. And that is where we come in. Now, of course, there is a lot of challenges when we talk about data storage, especially in the space industry. You have a lot of things to face as a company, mostly, well, compatibility issues, vendor locking. These kind of phenomena are very common in the storage area. Of course, storage is something that some people do not deem critical. So they might want to invest less time and manpower into it. You want to free up as much time as possible to focus on other problems. And of course, we have seen a rising cost in terms of ownership, especially for data management. Now, what do we provide to be able to help you into facing all of this? Well, we have completely scalable on-premise storage solutions, going from, well, compact desktop formats to full flash arrays for performance and highly scalable storage that you can use for archiving purposes. Now, I mentioned on-premise, which can sometimes be a big word, because nowadays everybody is working on the cloud. But if you think about it, and especially for the space industry, on-premise storage is the way to go, because it is private by design. The data belongs to you. It is not hosted in a third-party data center. You have complete data ownership, so the data only belongs to you. You do not have to rely on any third party to be able to host your data, because it is in your own data center that you can handle and manage. And of course, on the long run, especially the total cost of ownership, so the TCO, is going to be much lower for something like an on-premise storage solution, rather than for cloud solution like AWS, Microsoft, or Google. Now, this is the kind of solutions that we offer to help you easily and efficiently store all your data. So for use case, to make things as easy as possible, we have, of course, an intuitive web-based GUI, so you are able to very easily manage all your data however you want. It is easy to use. You don't have to use command line. Everything is laid out properly, which is going to help you save time. We have very large compatibility in terms of both file protocols, so all the standards that you know, SMB, NFS, FTP, but also for block protocols. So you might want to host some SAN data, for instance, through iSCSI or Fiber Channel. And of course, you may also have some virtual machines like VMware and Hyper-V. We also have free software solutions that are designed to help you manage and secure your data with free data protection, data replication, high availability, and virtual machine solution that you can install directly on our products, which are free to use, which is great when you don't always have the budget to use other third-party solutions. And of course, data security, when we talk about the space industry, is something that is quite critical. So we support things like ES-256, full volume encryption, as well as WORM, so write once, read many integration directly into our products. So you are able to use WORM, which is a mechanism that creates immutable storage to efficiently store your data. So you will write the data once onto your storage server, and after that, it cannot be modified, even by an admin. So it's a great way to ensure compliance, especially for archiving all the data. Now we have a quick demo to show you how easy it is to create a WORM folder, so a immutable storage folder on our platform. So this is our web OS that you can use. It comes installed with all our products. And we just have to go into the control panel. It's very easy to do. We're going to create a new folder. We're just going to choose a name. So for instance, in this case, we can use CYSAT. And then once we will have the options to create the server, the folder, sorry, you can select to use the write once, so the WORM feature, that will allow you to completely lock the storage after a specific period of time. So of course, you can choose when you want to lock the files after they are written. Well, for instance, let's say 2 hours or maybe 4 hours. You can also set for how long it is going to be locked. You might need to lock it for 5 years, for 10 years, for 20 years. You can choose whatever you prefer. And then, of course, we keep it immutable, so it cannot be edited at all once it has been locked. And then that's it. You just have to click OK. And in just 1 minute, I was able to create an immutable folder on my Synology system that I can then use to store all my files. Now, of course, we mentioned data security. So if I try, well, let's imagine that someone breaches into my server. If they try to delete it, of course, it will not be possible. So they will get an information that tells you, hey, you cannot do that. Now let's go one step further. And let's imagine that someone manages to breach your infrastructure, and they gain terminal access to your server, and they gain full pseudo privileges. And they're going to try to also delete this very critical folder on which you have all your data. So we can navigate to our volume, going to look for our folder, which is right here, CYSAT folder. And now let's try, with pseudo privileges to delete it. So we're going to run an rm command, recursive, on the folder. And as you can see, we have a message, well, you may not be able to see it, but we have a message here that says that you cannot actually remove the folder. So even if someone manages to breach into your network and gain complete pseudo admin privileges for your system, they will still not be able to delete that critical data that you have. This is a great way that you can store files, especially on the long term. Now, another use case that we wanted to share here, space imaging. It's actually a use case that we have with some of our partners. So satellite imaging is going to generate a lot of pictures, which are usually very detailed pictures that you need to store. That's a lot of data. So what some partners do is they just simply bring the image from the satellite to ground control, and then they can use our solutions with high scalability storage solutions up to more than 4 petabytes of data to store all these pictures for long term. And then they have on-site local processing of that imaging data that they're going to connect to our equipment to be able to very easily process the data. And with this kind of solution, you can avoid any recurring cost that you would have with a cloud provider. You don't have to use external bandwidth because everything is going to be stored locally, directly onto your system. And you can rationalize all your costs when it comes to storage. So this is the kind of solution that we are going to provide here for the space industry. Now, of course, you might want to see it for yourself. So if that is the case, feel free to join us. We have a booth that is right over there. We'll be happy to have a demo for you. And of course, we know that a lot of people in the aerospace industry are based in Toulouse. So that is a French city. So we also have an event that will be hosted there on June 11th. So if you are in the area and you want to learn more about our products and solutions and how we can help the aerospace industry, feel free to join. This is a free entry. So if you want to just join the event, once again, feel free to come to us and we can help you get into that.
Thank you, Ivan, for very nice introduction to Synology products. Do we have any questions online or from the audience? Coming right away.
Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
I think this question must come as you're on a space symposium. Do you have plans to have onboard storage as well, space-proven, hardened, and so on?
Currently, not. We might consider it in the future, but we actually never really got the request to have onboard storage. But we already work with some critical, let's say, moving parts. So we work with a lot of shipping companies. So they deploy our products on ships. That can be warships, so for defense, but also for transportation. So currently, we have never sent a NAS to space. We might in the future, if that is a need that we can identify. Yeah, definitely something we can consider.
Thank you. Any more questions? I actually have some. We had a brief chat before, and I told you, okay, there is only so much you can innovate, in my opinion, when it comes to storage solutions. But as a company, you must be pushing to get new and flashy things out there. So is there something new and flashy that you're planning to have in terms of storage solutions?
Absolutely. Well, we have always been using the same philosophy, being that anybody should be able to use one of our products. If they are an IT admin, sure, they will be able to use any command line. But we also want people who are maybe not as experienced or don't have the time to be able to use our product as quickly and efficiently as possible. So that's why we are already deploying new solutions based on AI, which will help IT admins monitor the entire Synology systems, being able to detect incoming threats, things like ransomwares, for instance. So we will be able to detect this kind of attack that is going to quickly erase or encrypt the data on your Synology product to be able to automatically block the connection to that. It's something we're working on. We're also working on integrating AI capabilities in our Office productivity suite. So we also have things like email servers that you can host directly on your Synology products. So you will be able to use things like AI Writer to help you write emails, or you can also store documents directly on your NAS and being able to recap or rephrase content of those documents using AI. So that's one of the things we are working on. And of course, especially for the space industry, the growing needs are always about performance and capacity. So currently we are working on expanding our solutions with larger and larger systems, clusters that are going to be able to be hosted on different locations to be able to ensure the availability of data at all time.
Okay, thank you. One more question. So you mentioned those sort of Earth observation scenario where you have those large petabytes of data you might want to store and retain. And when it comes to those missions, very often next question is the data retency. And we really want to keep this data for very long. So it's HDD or SSD solutions are not that great in retaining it for decades, for instance. So do you tackle it somehow?
Yeah, so we have solutions that can both do SSD and HDD, sometimes at the same time even. So of course there's going to be a hierarchy in the kind of data that you need to manage. For hot data, so data that you're going to use very often, that you're going to rely on, usually you're going to host it on SSDs to be able to leverage as much performance as you can. And then as you said, for long-term archiving, you're going to usually look for the better cost to storage ratio. So in this case, we usually recommend to use hard drives, which are going to be, well, sometimes very durable on the long term, and they are also going to be much cheaper, especially for storing very large quantities of data that you might not even need to use in the future.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ivan. Everyone, please give a round of applause.
Thank you.